Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for those of you that are watching online across the state of Minnesota. My name is Bruce Gordon. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. It's been a challenging and deadly first half of the year in the state of Minnesota. 185 people have lost their lives on Minnesota roads this year so far. That compares to 157 at this time last year. Speed is playing a significant role in those traffic crashes. We know that 1 in 5 crashes on Minnesota roads are attributed to excess speed. We're here today to announce extra speed enforcement around the state of Minnesota starting tomorrow and going through July 26th. And standing behind me are members of the Hennepin County Traffic Enforcement Group. Their mission is to keep us safer on the roads on which we drive. In a few minutes, you'll have an opportunity to ride along with some of the officers and view the technology that they use to look for people that are exceeding the speed limit. First, we're going to hear from a number of speakers, to begin with Donna Berger, who is the Director of the Office of Traffic Safety at the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. She'll talk about trends on Minnesota roads, the statistics that are in part bringing us here today. Mason Barland, B-A-R-L-A-N-D, Hennepin County Traffic Enforcement Group. He'll discuss his team's efforts. And then Lieutenant Tiffany Nielsen of the Minnesota State Patrol will talk about the statewide effort to crack down on speeding on Minnesota roads during the next week. Donna Berger.
Thank you, Bruce. Good morning. We're roughly halfway through the 100 deadliest days on Minnesota roads. And we know that speed is a major contributing factor in summer crashes. As Bruce mentioned, today we're starting stepped up enforcement that's starting tomorrow through July 26th. This is an overtime enforcement campaign that is funded through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So over 300 law enforcement agencies across the state, including State Patrol, will be focusing on the speed campaign. On average, speed contributes to 28 deaths June through August and over 100 deaths every year. Whether it's a car speeding along the highway or a motorcycle weaving in and out of traffic, I think we've all witnessed that aggressive speeding behavior, and frankly, it's pretty scary. Nearly 17,000 people were cited for speed last year, and of those, 12 were driving over 100 miles per hour, and that's just during the speed campaign we had last July. Today, we ask you to be part of the solution. Nobody wants to be labeled that backseat driver, but don't take a backseat when it comes to your safety or the safety of others on the road. If you're in a car and someone's driving very fast, you have the right to speak up and tell them to slow down. If you observe an aggressive driver on the road and they're driving dangerous and speeding excessively, we encourage you to call 911 so that driver can be taken off the road. We ask everyone to do their part. Slow down, obey the speed limit, and of course, have a safe and enjoyable summer with your family. Together we can all make a difference saving lives on Minnesota roads. One organization that's dedicated to making our roads safer is the Hennepin County Traffic Enforcement Group. And to talk about their efforts, I would like to invite Mason Barland to say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mason Barland. I'm the coordinator for the Hennepin County Traffic Enforcement Group. Most people probably aren't familiar with our mission. It was formed several years ago as a coalition of local police agencies and involves the State Patrol as well to tackle traffic safety issues that aren't necessarily covered by the Towards Zero Death grant that you just heard about. The vast majority of the officers you see behind you are on straight time. They're working their regular shift, and they come together to target specific issues in various communities around Hennepin County. Quality of life problems like crosswalk issues, speeding, seatbelt enforcement, things that are very hard for us to tackle as a single officer. We're able to come together as a group and get our message out much easier. Over the years, it's involved as many as 13 agencies, and last year, for instance, we conducted more than 1,100 traffic stops for issues such as speed, seatbelt, distracted driving, and crosswalk violations. When we're doing these projects, like we are going to be today on Interstate 494. It's not unusual for us to see at least one vehicle traveling in the high 90s for speed. And that's just in a very short time frame that we're out there observing speeds that we see a driver going that fast. So it's fair to assume that there's multiple drivers throughout the course of the day that are traveling upwards of 100 miles per hour that we aren't catching. When we're doing these enforcements, our typical speeds are in the area of 75, and this is a 60 mile per hour zone here, so it's not unusual at all for us to be getting a large number of drivers, usually 40 or 50 a day, that are in the high 70s. And in a few moments, we're going to be inviting media to ride along with our officers and observe the technology that we're using to track driver speeds and to communicate with each other to make sure that the roads stay safe for us all. But before we do that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Lieutenant Tiffany Nielsen from the State Patrol.
Thank you. Now, in the next few weeks, we are going to have 300 police agencies all across Minnesota on a heightened awareness looking specific for speed-related violations. We know in 2014, 94 people lost their lives to speed-related crashes. And just talking about 94 people is an astronomical number. That's 94 families that have been affected, and their lives will never be the same. One thing that drivers don't typically think about when speeding, they may be concerned about a citation, but what they aren't always aware of is the effects on the human body in a high-speed crash. There's 3 collisions in a crash. There's the collision of the vehicle striking an object. There's the collision of the body against the seatbelt, which is designed to stretch and slow the person down. And then there's the collision internally. There's internal organs that will shift, including your brain, heart, and lungs, and put pressure internally. At a high-speed collision, there's rapid deceleration, and that rapid deceleration is what causes those internal injuries that when we respond to that crash where an 80-mile-per-hour vehicle struck a bridge abutment and that driver is deceased, the injuries are internal and there's nothing we can do on the road or even in a trauma center to remedy those injuries. And that's what drivers don't always consider, is that rapid deceleration in the event of a crash that could be a fatal injury crash. The other things that happen in a high-speed driving situation is your steering input changes. At 80 miles per hour, you do not need to apply as much steering to maneuver your vehicle. However, since most drivers don't drive at that speed, if they put themselves in a situation where they are and have to avoid or try to avoid an obstruction, they might put too much steering in based on their point of reference, which could cause them to go off the road and then possibly strike an object. And again, that striking of an object at 80 miles per hour is going to cause a fatal injury, which cannot be treated by first aid on the side of the road. So over the next 3 weeks and the entire course of the year, we want all drivers to commit to driving safely, respecting the speed limits which are set for the safety of the roadway, set for the safety of the driver and their passengers, and make a conscious decision to not put yourself in harm's way. We also know that exceeding the speed limit doesn't save you time. So sit back, enjoy a beautiful day like today, enjoy the weather, enjoy the ride, and do not put yourself in harm's way.
Hey, any questions before we take you on the ride along?
I may have missed this, but are you seeing trends year to year, month to month? Are you seeing any signs of hope that people are slowing down?
We do know that in the summer, speed violations increase. And on a day like today, where it's bright and sunny, people drive faster. That's been my experience as a state trooper. They are feeling good, the weather's good, they're not thinking as much about monitoring their speed. On an overcast day or winter day, people are more aware of the conditions and slow down. But on these nice summer days, people drive faster, and I think you're going to see that very clearly out here when we go out and take a look at what's actually going on our roads.
Lieutenant, does this involve viscosity or the behavior of the speed leaving?
Well, we do see those things go hand in hand. Drivers who are exceeding the speed limit may be looking to overtake slower traffic. We're going to see more lane changes, more aggressive driving. But when we capture a vehicle's speed with a laser, what you'll see, it's kind of a moment in time. We might see some of the driving conduct, but there could have been things going on a mile prior to that we didn't witness, but could speak to aggressive driving.
Reckless driving is more of a, I'm not trying to get you off your sunburn, but is the reckless driving, is it more of a subjective call by the officer?
What the behaviors they observe is going to base the citation. So if they're seeing a driver operate in a straight line at a high speed, they're going to get a speeding ticket. If they're making a lot of lane changes, driving aggressively in and out of traffic, that could raise the level of a careless or reckless driving citation, which is a misdemeanor.
When police sees two people speeding at the same time, how do they choose which one to stop?
What you'll see today with our officers, they're going to be looking at the fastest vehicles in each group, and if there's multiple vehicles driving fast, they're going to try to stop as many as they can. There are times when you're working speed enforcement where you have two vehicles, you've clocked at the same speed, and you may be able to pull both of them over by signaling to those drivers. So obviously we want to contact the drivers that are driving the fastest, driving the most aggressively, and we're going to try to contact as many of those people as possible. But again, with these violations, drivers making the good choice on the front end, making the conscious decision, they're not going to meet an officer. And that's what we're hoping to reiterate today so that people make a decision and they don't have to receive a ticket or get involved in a crash.